be careful about your fear-based decision making. I feel that is some quite big issue in our conventional healthcare system, because the labeling, the diagnosis is something what automatically create fear in patients, and that is something what's not very helpful. Of course, there is some situation happening to us. We have some condition, we have some symptom, some disease, some pain. We feel sick. That is the truth, that is real. But what we think about it, that is not real. That is a construct, that's concept of our mind, of our mental activity. And we are very strongly conditioned towards fear, because there is always, it's like news in the TV, there is nothing really, no one really talking about something nice, something beautiful. There is always only the talk about the problems, about the consequences. There is always, we always hear about who died from what can happen when you do this and don't do that and stuff like that, and how you are irresponsible when you don't take your injection or whatever, that there is some big issue around it, and everyone has own opinion about stuff. Everyone has own responsibility and own intelligence to decide what path wants to go, and that's all right. But the thing is, just observe yourself. If you don't really fall in fear consciousness, and if you don't decide whether or which way you go, if you don't decide from your fear, if you decide from clear presence and really clarity of the vision, because that is something what really can change which way you're going to direct yourself. And in the Western medicine, we are quite fear oriented, so be aware of that is something what's usually going to happen to you in the hospital when you come and you get the diagnosis, you get the label, what will happen if you don't follow this protocol. And find your balance. Find your balance in this topic, because of course it's absolutely normal, it's natural for our ego, for our personas to be afraid of something happening to us, of us being ill, of us not being to provide for our families, for us being invalidized, being not able to take care about ourselves, or having pain, having the tougher life. And of course there is always, or there is usually the fear of death. And that is our human nature. That is what we are conditioned to by this duality matrix, this Maya. And so that is normal for our human nature, for us living this life through our ego. That is normal. If we stay in this consciousness, that is what we experience. The other thing is there is also some divine nature of our being, and that is not that often explored as it should be, and definitely not in this field. But if we enter a little bit more into the divine space of our being, into that nature, into the presence of that state, then when we experience the true bliss, the love of that natural state, then we don't experience fear. In that consciousness where we lose our ego identification, there is no fear at all, because we accept that things happen, and happen from a reason, they have some cause, and they happen for a reason, and the reason is to learn and to grow. And if our approach, if our attitude is this, that there is some condition which might be difficult for us, but it's also only some kind of temporary state which is here to make us learn something. And we learn if we allow ourselves to walk, to connect with this, and to explore what does it mean. But when we are in fear consciousness, we never get the courage to explore. And I don't say if you have 4th grade cancer to start exploring and to say no to your chemo. That is not my recommendation. The recommendation is to observe, to be aware of what you actually experience, and understand what's your drive. And there are some situations where you don't need to go the path of your fear. There are situations where your condition is not that far, not that extreme, that you need to take immediate action with your Western medicine approach. And sometimes you do. So talk to your doctor. Ask him if you really need to go this way. And try to discern what's actually the approach of your doctor, because you also can hear that there is no other way. But sometimes it can happen that your doctor also isn't that open-minded, that he just cannot imagine that there is another way. So check it out inside. If you have fear, then observe it. Find your way out of the fear. It means find a way out of your ego, out of your identification with your persona, with that something what's going to happen is bad. Nothing is bad or good. Everything is balanced both ways in in the actual acceptance, when we are actually able to encompass both polarities in this dual perception, when we are really able to see it as two parts, two sides of one coin, then we can keep the balance and keep our free will without the fear coverage. And that is important. You can decide whatever you want. But first of all, try to realize your fear. Try to focus your awareness on the state, on the emotional state you are in. Because if you're stuck in your fear, then every decision you take is driven by this inadequacy, by this illusion. The fear is not real. Maybe it's even against law that I say this, but there's some higher law of this world. This world is governed by higher forces, and that what happens to us here in this form is somehow already decided and happens as it's going to happen anyways. So from some viewpoint, there is some path which we go, and at the end of some path, and actually at the end of all those paths, waits the death. So maybe even the end point of your disease is your death. It's the same for me. But this is something what we should accept. And if we accept that this is also the possibility, then we miraculously create amazing amount of inner power and freedom to actually work with our condition, to work with what is. And we can decide whichever way, it doesn't matter. But just don't decide from the fear. This is the direct way to your hell. Fear is one of the lowest emotions, one of the lowest levels of our consciousness. And when we create something through the course of our life, when we prepare ourselves for some illness to occur, it's something what we had been creating all along. And when we get our diagnosis, nothing changed at that moment. only we got the label. And when we identify with this label and we fall into the lowest state of the consciousness, then it's very difficult to heal. So even though if you decide to go the Western medicine way, if you decide to go alternative medicine way, if you decide to whatever you decide, just decide after you calm yourself, after you realize what is your fear, and you realize what are your true values and what you truly love and what you truly want. And move the direction for the future in that way. Don't focus on the fear and on the problem. I'll always lead you deeper in the problem and in the fear. Even though you decide to use the proper Western medicine treatment, first of all, get out of your fear. Learn to do that. Learn to meditate, to stop your mental narratives, to stop your constructs, to stop your ego-centered fairy tales, illusions, which are not true. In higher perspective, they are not true. The truth is that we are immortal, spiritual beings having this experience which is going to end one day, sooner or later. And we are here to learn, not to fight. So learn to grow to higher dimensions, to higher levels of your consciousness. Start with acceptance. Any condition, if we want to go for a real healing, we have to start with the acceptance. Acceptance is the first and the most crucial step to set off. So accept what is, accept and be aware about your reality. And then go on, set your intention, connect yourself with your origin, with the source of your life. Connect with the nature, with Mother Earth. Connect with your heart, with your soul. Open up. Feel yourself being spacious, empty, non-different from source. One with everything that is. Ever present, being unlimited. That's what you have, what you are when you just stop your mental activity, when you just stop your fear narratives going on and on. They are illusory. That's just the ego, which thinks it's some separate form. But that's not true. The truth is we are one spirit, we are one love. And in that realization, it's alright. Trust, learn, be grateful for your experience. Love yourself, whatever you did or you haven't done. It doesn't matter. It matters for the ego, but for the divine spark, for the soul inside you, it doesn't matter at all. And there is no need for any dark, shadowy, tough, deep emotions, sadness, worry, anger, fear. No reason for none of that. Just connect yourself with the truth of your being. And see what does it mean for you, and what you truly want, what you truly want from your life. What can you gain from this situation you are in, and what it actually already brought to you? Because it's never one-sided. There's some condition which you might feel being negative, but it is just one part of it. There's always the other part. When we move forward or kind of higher in our spiral of consciousness, and when we stop living the duality on the level of being good or bad, but we somehow unite those yin-yang energies, and we harmonize them and encompass them and let them grow in a higher level, then there is still some kind of variation of stillness and activity, but it's not good and bad. It's like action and calmness. It's like light and love. But it's not good and bad. It's the fluctuation of life. It's the movement of life which leads us somewhere. We don't know where. We don't know nothing. But we feel everything here. We can feel what's true to us. But from here, we can end up in never-ending negative spirals of our fear-based thoughts. And it's just disaster. Because from there we are not able to create, we don't solve anything with this encircled loops of thoughts. We have to step back or get out. And step in our being. Connect to the earth. From your heart, from your pelvis, feel the connection. And calm down. Stay in this present moment. Find your source inside. Find something you love. You loved when you were younger. What you truly enjoyed. Use that memory as your everlasting source, which you keep inside, and you can always return to it. And from this, decide, from here, from the acceptance, from the allowance of the reality of your condition. Don't fight it. Allow it. Let it be. And depending on your decision, on your courage, decide whichever way you want to go. Oftentimes it's helpful to combine all those approaches, to let the medicine help you, but already start your new direction. And let it work together. And once you set off fully, and you feel that you have already your strength, your power, your decision in place, then you can slowly reduce the help of the medicine, of the professionals, of the healthcare system, and go yourself. Don't let the help of the medicine, of the system, overcome your free will. Don't let it decide for you you are the responsible one for your health. Use it. Use the help and find the courage to take the responsibility for yourself. And then when you are further on, then just follow. And if you don't decide to take the courage, to take your responsibility, then you're always going to stay in the fear-based victim state. And you'll always need the help of someone, some external help. You're never gonna get independent and free. You'll always need some pills, some drugs. That's alright, you can do that. But if you feel you are powerful enough to find the courage inside you and to trust in love and in God enough that you start walking yourself on your own foot, on your own feet. And maybe one day you'll not need the help anymore. But let it grow simultaneously with the help of the healthcare system. Because the self-care, the self-worth and self-work is absolutely crucial step and crucial aspect of the wholeness. We only can access our wholeness, our wholesome state of being by ourselves. No one else can do it for us. It's just impossible. And the patient, the victim, that is kind of old. And if you grow enough in your consciousness, you can realize that you are actually the holder of your power. You are actually the holder of the free will, and you are the one who decides. So decide your way. But I highly recommend realize if you decide from your fear. If you decide from your fear, don't let it continue. This doesn't help you. Fear doesn't help you to do good, conscious decisions. So do it. When you get your diagnosis, go home, sit down, breathe, meditate, and check out. If you are afraid, are you afraid what's gonna happen? Are you afraid that you're gonna be suffering? Are you afraid that you're gonna die? well, yeah, everything can happen. It can happen whatever path you take. If you take the alternative medicine, you can die as well as you're gonna die when you don't do anything, or where you take your pills. And of course, you may die this way and not die that way. That's everything is possible. I just don't wanna give you any. I don't tell you. I don't force you to go any specific direction. Do whatever you want. Just observe if you're not driven by your fear, because it's always lopsided decision making from inadequacy, from lack, and the fear is not going to lead you to the highest possible outcomes. So check yourself out when you get your label. Check it out. Do you agree? Do you agree that there's nothing else to do? Or you feel somewhere deep inside that there is something more to it, and you can do something, you can add something to the recommended treatment. You can find some alteration. You know, when I had my experiences many years ago in Amazonian jungle with ayahuasca, I went through a great suffering and incredible suffering. But what I have learned there is that the suffering exists only when you think you are some kind of separate being, when you think you are some persona which is divided from the rest. That's when the suffering can happen. That's the identification with the ego. But when you realize that this is not the truth, then it just dissolves. Immediately dissolves. When you're not identified with your ego, when you learn how to live in the bliss of present moment, in the state of being, and there is no suffering. Even though you're ill, and even though you may die, there is no suffering. And there is no fear of the future. So it's not going to help you in the changing your destiny. It may help you when you decide for some specific route, but it might not. It may not. And it also can happen that you're going to be ill. Maybe that's the way how you're supposed to learn your your task, your experience in this lifetime. But that's what we agreed to do here in this human experience. So let's live it up. And well, we are all going to die eventually. And it depends what we are able to gain when we live. And even though we have this difficult situation that we hear we are in that state and we don't want it, but there is something what's the normal primal reaction, but it is also something what can be transferred, what can be transformed in more conscious attitude. So I know it can be difficult to get to hear what happened to you. Open your heart. Breathe. Accept it. And trust in yourself.